Hi, Jamie White. Thank you so much for joining me and being one of my first guests on the Resilient Entrepreneur Show.
Thank you, Kate. I'm excited to support you. I love podcasting.
I know. You and I were talking about being podcast guests more, and I've always been a podcast guest, and I've never done it for myself. So here we go. We're gonna try. So I know you are the founder of Believe Crew, and you're a first generation female founder who's been running family and private businesses for over 20 years now, right?
Yeah,
Tell me a little bit about your business, Believe Crew.
absolutely. I'd love to. Yeah, and so I'm currently running a business that is me and my husband, and then the team that we're building out underneath it. And so for us, this business is still a family business. I grew up in family business, and now I'm in it again, but this time as the founder. Before I was the next gen in family business. And so Believe Crew is an alignment firm and company that helps business owners get into alignment with their vision, their mission, and really, if they're here to create a momentum, even better.
Oh, love that. I love that. Get into alignment. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions for you for some short answers to get to know you and your business better. Who is or was the first hire in your business?
Well, when I saw this question, Kate, actually, I go back to when I was 18 and I made my first hire, because I know that your podcast is about the resilient entrepreneur. So how I
Yes.
became resilient is not because of the last 3 years in Believe Crew. I mean, yes, it hasn't hurt. But when I was 18 and we were starting a furniture store for the family, but my mom was sick and my parents weren't going to be able to help me like they thought initially. And so I was like, I need to hire someone. And this lady walked in and she was like, your prices are too high or too low. You have everything priced wrong. And I was like, my whole thing that I thought about for weeks was, what is the price? And I care about finance and I care about the background. I grew up I was a teller in the banking industry. And so like, I thought I had my inventory down. And when she told me that, I was like, wait, what did I do wrong? And so she leaned against a wet post because our business was so new. We were still painting some of the interior sections of the building. And she got wet paint on her suit coat that she had worn into the. And then it was like, hi, I'm Jamie. Who are you? And she's like, hi, I'm the designer that I think we would be a great fit to work together. And I just found out about your business and I thought, I come in and see if maybe you're looking to hire. And at the time, I didn't think I could afford anyone. I didn't think I was looking for anyone. And then I went home that night after having met her and talked to her and realized I need to hire someone. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't, like, I was at the point where if I sold something, I didn't know how to replace it. Like, I was so new to the business. And here was someone that was experienced coming in, more experienced than me, an interior designer, someone that had sales experience. And she was willing to work for $10 an hour. Like, what I found is that from the beginning, I have found that people are willing to work for less than you think if it's the right opportunity and an aligned opportunity. And so literally there's, so much to the story. We met literally 3 days later in North Carolina and started buying together 3 days later. And we created this incredible business because we were in alignment right from the get-go. And so it's just absolutely, for me, was one of the best first hire stories.
Well, and it wasn't even a job posting in a real interview. Like, it was someone that just walked into your store and was like, I found you and I think I can help you and I'm the right fit. So talk about like timing and alignment of opportunity and you not really knowing what you needed, but that just landing in your lap.
The thing is that when we've worked with some of the business owners that are doing really well and have, what a lot of people are wanting, cash flow, work-life balance, I wouldn't say balance necessarily, but an understanding that there's a counterbalance. They just bring their kids into the business and just make it all work in business. It's all life. They have that same philosophy. They create an opening in their company and they just know that the right person is going to show up when they need them, or they let everybody in the company know, hey, we're looking for this person. And people just show up. And I found that to be true, but I didn't get trained on it. It just happened.
Great. I love that story. What about this? So I'm really big into tools. I might have too many. What is the best software tool that you are using today that you can't live without?
To be honest, I'm actually a software nerd myself. And what we did when we first launched Believe Crew was made a huge investment into software. And the amount of money that we spent, I'm just going to be raw and vulnerable here. It was a $70,000 commitment for the first year. And we were building out an entire platform behind the scenes to be able to run the first version of what we thought Believe Crew was going to be. And then after 18 months, I mean, if you also include the additional 70,000 that we spent paying 2 people to build out the platform, we're talking about $150,000 investment that 18 months later we shut down. So fun.
We're supposed to share the mistake story and
Mistakes
lesson
later.
learned later.
Well,
Yeah.
there'll probably be another one there. So in the software space right now, we're at a point where we're using Go High Level to build something behind the scenes. And to be honest, I know a lot of people use Go High Level when they really don't need it. And so again, I think my heart is for business owners to realize that there's a time and a place for all the software. And like it is super valuable and super helpful. Technically, my favorite software ever was in the storage industry. We were running over 2,000 units, and it was incredible to manage the platform through software. So I'm 100% all in favor of software. Okay, wait, short story. My dad, who did not believe in software,
Mm-hmm.
would come into the office and talk to the new employees and say, hey, how come you guys like using those computers? Don't you miss having something tangible that you can touch? And my mom used to set up the storage business on index cards. And so when a payment was due, when a client was due, they would flip the index card up. You know, this works well when you have like the first 50 units. And then after that, it starts to get a little chaotic. But he didn't understand the value because he couldn't come in as a business owner that didn't know how to run the software and run the computer and see what was past due. And so he didn't think we could see it. So my story is that right now, I'm not a huge advocate for specific software.
Yeah, and it's not a one size fits all, and there is such an overload of software being pushed at us all the time that it's easy to get overwhelmed and drown in software and technical debt of
Sometimes
too
we're
much.
not ready for it when we think we are. I experienced it myself even after knowing how to run multiple businesses, and I still did it again. So
Yeah. What about AI? Everyone's talking about AI and using AI. Do you use AI, and what is your favorite AI tool?
Chat and I are good friends. My husband knows I may have told him too soon out of the gate with AI that that I would potentially marry it, and so now he's holding that against me. But I love ChatGPT at a level that I'm so thankful to be doing business during this time that AI is here. And I joke that 3 years from now, you know, we live in Mexico, and I joke that 3 years from now, people will still be coming to Mexico and people will still be asking them, you know, do you want a pina colada or a margarita? And it won't be about AI when you come to visit. So I think there's just going to be this real difference, like a stark difference between what's AI and what's not. But for me and Chat.
Yeah, especially once it's trained and it knows your business and it knows your target audience and your market, and you can help it refine ideas. I use it for a lot of market intel, competitive intel, market research a lot for research, actually.
People have told me that I should give classes on how to give prompts because I do have a really good AI. People are like, mine doesn't do what yours does. And I'm like, well, don't you feed it information? And they're like, what? I'm like, well, yeah, I feed it information.
Yeah, it's going to be trained, right?
Yes.
And then, you know that I'm in the consulting business. So I always like to talk about talent and how you access talent. So as you're growing your company, do you like to hire full-time people? Do you use contractors? Do you outsource projects to specific niche vendors, or do you use any fractional resources in your business?
I love the concept of fractional, and I love 1099 contractors, and I love everyone being in their lane. And so the thing that, you know, personally, we use fractionals and contractors in our business primarily, and that's what I'm planning on building from here on out. Like, I would like the U.S. government to look at its 1099 contractor rules and update them. For anyone listening to this podcast that might have impact in this space, I am an advocate for let's create more Uber opportunities and 1099 contractor opportunities in this fractional talent world, and just outsource our talent. It's absolutely future.
Yeah. I think it's the next employment wave and type and
Absolutely.
preference of employment, especially for people like yourself that are really embracing the freedom and flexibility and choice of where you work, when you work, and how you work, and where you work
Yeah.
from. I mean, we talked about your move to Mexico, and how jealous I am and wishing that I was brave like you to do that at this stage of my life. Being an entrepreneur, at least, I think a lot of us make that leap exiting corporate, quitting corporate to be entrepreneurs because we believe that we will have more freedom and flexibility. With that comes a lot more risk and responsibility as well,
Yeah.
but at least you get to choose when and where and how you work and who you work with.
Kate, I was actually thinking about this today from the perspective of the AI conversation to wrap that around to this,
Yeah.
where, I think the younger generation is going to be so entrepreneurial and so interested in this Uber-like, and I'm just going to call it Uber-like way
Yeah.
of work, where they can plug in when they want to what work they want. And because AI and robots are going to replace all of the task-oriented businesses, any or jobs, any job that can be replaced by a computer is going to be. So this younger generation isn't looking to have a job that isn't allowing them to be in a place to think differently, to provide value in a different way than a robot would.
Right.
We're no
Right.
longer looking to hire people robots.
Yeah. And like you said, like the next generation, the kids that we're raising don't want to go sit in an office 9 to 5. Like that is my son is like, I do not want to go have meetings in front of a computer like you and dad do all day. Like that is he's like, I don't want a corporate office job. I want a job where I can like be out and do stuff outside. I don't know if that's owning a landscape company for him or what that means at this stage, but like he is dreading a corporate America job. That is not what he wants.
Yeah.
No. Awesome. All right. Well, I know you've been in business a long time now, most of your life, most of your adult life, we'll call it. What is your proudest achievement as a business owner and how did it happen?
Okay, so I actually have two.
Okay.
One was I created a twilight tour of homes. I grew up in the home construction industry. My parents were custom home builders. And so I grew up in the parade of homes every year, punching tickets, and inviting people into our home. And but then when I started in the furniture industry, I saw that there were a lot of people that had updated their homes and put so much money and care and love into their older homes. And so I created this twilight tour of homes in memory of my mom after she died. And so it was really, really special to my heart that there were, 100 people that would go through and buy these tickets. And it was just like this luxury event. There's so much more to the story. But the second
Easy.
one is actually when we bought a building out from under U-Haul. And so I don't know why, but I'm like really nerdy about this. There was a property for sale, and we found out that it had. I went and looked at it, saw it, and decided I wanted it. I was in the storage business with my dad at the time, and we were converting grocery stores, and this would be our third one that we ended up doing, into indoor storage. And so I went and looked at this property, knew I wanted it, sat down and was talking to my dad about it, and he's like, well, let's call the realtor, see what's going on, and it was 1.2 million is what it was listed for, and that was twice as much as any property that we had ever put in a bid on or done any work on, whatever. And so it was a stretch moment for us, you could say. And we call, and she says, oh, we already have a cash LOI. We already have a cash letter of intent on the table from a big name company out of Arizona. Well, I knew who it was just in that conversation, because U-Haul is the only company that's publicly known, and it's a cash offer, full price. So the chances of us getting it were not very good, right? And so I hung up the phone, and my dad looked at me and he's like, why are you getting red? And I was like, because I'm mad. I wanted that building. And so we talked about it a little bit, and I was like, you know what? I think we could get the building. If we're willing to take a couple of risks here, I think we could get it. Because big businesses have so much due diligence that they have to do, and small, scrappy business owners are willing to take different risks, and they can. Obviously, you can't all the time when you're at that big business level. And so the advantage of being a small business owner is, resilience, right? Like the things that you're
Yeah.
talking about, like
Yeah.
being able to pivot and being able to come up with creative ways of doing things. So We did. We put in a cash offer with no contingencies, closing in 45 days. And we did offer $25,000 more than the asking price, but I don't think it was that. Like, we probably could have asked for a full price offer, and matched their offer and might have still gotten it. But it was because we put no contingencies on that we bought it out from under U-Haul. So that is my proudest achievement.
I
And the
love
fact that we got it up and running and, it had indoor storage, all the things.
And it was a profitable investment. It was a stretch, like
Oh,
you
yeah.
said, at the time for you, your biggest investment. But
Mm-hmm.
also, most people would have walked away. They would have been like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this isn't for me. I lost. But when you know something and you trust your
Mm-hmm.
gut and your judgment, and you're like, no, how do we make this work? I love
Yeah.
that. And the
And you get excited
scrappiness.
about it and follow that excitement. Like, you can give me work. Like, some people say they don't want to work, or they want a more work-life balance. You give me a project like that, I don't care how many hours it takes. Like, I'm going to make it happen.
That's that alignment of the passion. You're like, wait, I have
Exactly.
a vision. I see this
Mm-hmm.
building and what this could be and the potential of this. And I'm not going to let someone tell me no. I like, in the face of people telling me I can't, I'm like, oh, let me show you that I can type of person. So
Right.
I'm always up for that challenge and that fight. I have a little bit of that
Mm-hmm.
oldest daughter,
Yeah, I
syndrome.
might have that too. I think my dad and I end up fighting internally a little bit more than like, if we didn't have a big project to go after, then there was sort of an internal conflict. that's that's why we talk about alignment. Yeah. Anyway.
I love that. I love that. I also love the story about the business that you did because it was important to you about passion and your mom. And so
Mm-hmm.
if there's something in that is passionate or joy or for a personal reason, right?
Yeah.
In honor and tribute to your mom is why that was an achievement too. So it's always not the most profitable year, right? It's the winning because of the alignment, the joy, the passion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like both of those
And
stories
the
were
thing
great.
is, it actually ended up being one of our best profit generators, because again, we're in alignment, even the most random things that don't seem connected can be connected,
Yeah.
especially in the area of personal branding, like that we're in now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. But we also know that being a business owner is very challenging and that no business is all peaks without the valleys.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you willing to share about a mistake or a hard lesson that you had to learn during a
Mm-hmm.
growth stage of your business?
Man, Kate, I don't know what it is, but picking one is hard. So the one that comes to mind first, and actually it feels like I could even cry, is closing that furniture store that I talked about a lot, because there's a lot of reasons why. But what happened is my dad was starting to go on trips and be gone for like 3 months at a time. And he said to me, he's like, maybe this next time I won't come back. And I was like, what would I do differently if my dad wasn't here? And I had this thought, I would shut the furniture store down, because at that point we were running multiple businesses and it was not the profitable one. It was a distraction. And even though it was so close to my heart, and I started it at 18, and I didn't have any interest in furniture and retail when I started it, but it gets into your blood. It's like in my DNA now.
Yeah.
And so when he came back from that trip, I said, I think it's time to shut the store down. And he actually couldn't shut it down. And so I was like, well, now it's on you. Like, if it's not profitable, not on me. But that was the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you've invested, and it's not a fail, it's not,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like you're quitting,
Mm-hmm.
especially if there's been years of building something or with a family member or other people are still invested in trying to make it work or make it grow and you're just not there. But to know and to be brave enough to have that conversation, especially with a family member, but any business partner,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very difficult to do business with family, by the way.
Well, that's the second one, the one that I'm, like what I realize now, Kate, is that I was going through my own expansion and I didn't know that I was hitting into these invisible walls, and the people that were closest to me were getting hit with the shrapnel because I was exploding and I wasn't expanding in alignment. And So the relationship with my dad now, I call it almost like a messy divorce, but it's really, I recognize, I can look back now after lots of healing that it is not it wasn't his fault. He was being true to himself the whole time. It's that it was time for me to lead and become a first generation female founder and step out of the family business. And I didn't want to do that. I had too many of my own limiting beliefs. I wanted him to create more space for me. And sometimes we just have to step out of the box.
Yeah. That was an amazing quote. I hope I catch that in a clip, that you were exploding because you weren't having the space to expand in this period of growth, that you had kind of outgrown the little box that you were living in, and it was causing this type of chaos. I love that. I'll have to go back. You said it much better than I could recap that. And it's a brave movement, because it can be messy with family. You don't want it to affect the relationship. You want to still be able to have the holiday dinners and stuff together. But my brother works for my dad's business. My dad's retired now. My brother's running the business, and I had the opportunity possibly to stay in Buffalo and do it. But first of all, I was a female, and second of all, it's a trades kind of business, and third of all, it's Buffalo, and I didn't want to live there, and so I chose to leave. But I don't know if it would have I wouldn't have had the same relationship with my dad if I worked with him in the business, I think.
You know, what I realize now, and again, I grew up with belief systems where women were to support the men were the head of the household. And even though my mom was an amazing businesswoman, she still stood by and behind my dad. And so I didn't learn how to step out of that. I mean, literally, she died. She didn't do it. And so what my dream was as a mom of 6 boys was to create a space in the family business. Like, I'm just literally going to hold space for the next son, brother, cousin, boy to take over, right? This was what I was doing without even realizing it, but also like being really neutral about everything. This isn't really mine, I'm just here to help.
I'm the caretaker, or like the guardian. Yeah.
Yes. And so now, I mean, what happened, one of the conversations just before my dad and I were separating, was my oldest said, "Why are you staying?" And I was like, well, like, for you guys and for this lifestyle and he's like, "We don't want it." Wait, what? So there was a moment that I needed to have, a moment of real wake up.
I love that. Yes. It's like breaking the generational expectation of, yeah.
I give him credit for that.
That's great. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the future and what's next. So I'm going to ask a couple of quick questions with quick answers. So what is on the plan to grow the business for the rest of this year?
Well, Kate, prior to today, I probably wouldn't have given you this same answer.
Oh.
But I have had some incredible breakthroughs and expansiveness myself. Like, one of the things that I believe and believe through now is that when we don't expand to meet our future self, then again, like I told you, I blow up. Maybe somebody else would shrink to fit in the box, but I tend to blow up. So with that in mind, I've been working to create the biggest version of me and the biggest version of Believe True that I could imagine. And every day I would wake up with a new version. So today I feel like I think this is it. I think this is it. It's putting it in the space of it being a movement and thinking about Believe True as a movement, a new way of being. So really what I'm looking to do, and I see that there are other business owners out there now having these same conversations, so I know that I'm not called to do it alone, but we are pioneering in an industry. This idea of getting into alignment, doing the inner work as a business owner, instead of waiting until after you have money, until after you have time freedom, until after you sell your business, get into alignment now. And it actually puts everything else in order and in flow. And so for me, supporting women in business, supporting the next generations, having honest conversations about what does it really look like to be in alignment, and why is it so difficult, especially for women in business, to grow larger companies and to think outside of how we were raised. And so I'm really excited to be the leader of that.
I love that. And the focus of it being, and maybe it's a community of similar minded individuals, but
yes,
it's our own limiting beliefs and our own, we need to grow and give
Yes,
ourselves the time and the space to develop personally and not be only sacrificing our mental, physical, spiritual health for a business. Because like if we can show up as a happier, healthier, more balanced person, we can then maybe grow a better, more successful business,
exactly. Exactly.
right?
Yep.
But the American culture was always like you just
Hustle, work
work
hard.
and stress and keep
Hmm.
working harder to a point
Hmm.
of burnout, and that
And
you
it's a
have.
very masculine energy. It's a masculine energy just in general, regardless. And the problem is that women have been operating out of the shadow side of the feminine when trying to build businesses in flow. There's a way to do both. When we're in alignment with ourselves, we can still create amazing things.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
going to be fine. Hmm.
I like that a lot. And I'm excited about where you're heading in your retreats that you're going to start having, and finding a way for me to come to Mexico to go to one of said retreats. Um, so what is the first step that you're taking towards the new and I love this, like big, bold, huge goal, right? Set something that feels like it's a
Hmm.
stretch goal, which you've done in the past, like you shared, right? It's
Hmm.
always, you got to stretch.
Oh, it's so fun. Yeah, so the next step for me is to let me just think for a second because I was working on this morning, and I feel very aligned with this particular movement, you could say. But the thing that is a stretch goal for me is to understand where and how to share it, and to
Yeah.
and to embody and be the person that I don't see very many people being. Like I'm showing up business wise with bare feet in a swimsuit, sometimes with kids in the podcast and saying, it's okay. But is it? Like there's those little seeds of doubt. And so it's still for me getting over my own limiting beliefs around, even though I know that I'm called to lead, believe through, and I know that it's a business that exists regardless of whether I take up the charge. This is happening. It's still my own doubts and fears, getting over
Yeah.
those. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And making sure that you are, I think one of the things I learned from the other group that you led, that I was a part of, the personal development group that we were meeting with, because I have also interviewed Brittany um, and Rachel on the podcast, is
Right.
is um, being in the right room with the right people,
Hmm. Yes.
and making sure that you're showing up to the right events, right? You were talking
Yes.
about like you were in at a conference or some industry event with, billionaires,
Hmm.
and you're not looking at networking with people that are in Series A, seed funded, pre-rev startups. You're going, you're up leveling the type of audiences that you're involved in, and the communities and the network that you're involved in,
Hmm.
because that's where you want to be doing business with, is the people in
Yeah.
that level, right?
And I saw what happened to my parents. I saw what happened when you have multi-million-dollar businesses doing well, successfully. I mean, my parents were juggling life and business. It looked great, except for it didn't behind the scenes in the emotional capacity side and the alignment side. And so at the time, we didn't know what to do with it. So I went on a quest to find out. And here I am called to lead it. But, there's something about what you said with the rooms to be in, because I think the rooms that the next generation wants to be in barely exist.
And then I'm a believer, and it's mostly not rooms, but groups and community, that if it doesn't exist, that you have to be the one to build it.
I know. That's what that's what the other
But that's
message was
also
today.
scary because we're the ones that are.
Right. That's what I was chat GPTing just before we got on. How do I do that too?
That
And
is
make it
my
in alignment.
yes. So then, do you see any obstacles in your way besides just, time?
myself myself, right? For me, I mean, the business, the work that we do, the limiting beliefs that I have is the number one thing that I believe visionaries have in their way. And so I'm doing that work. I'm getting on calls with my team to say, okay, look, I know you do this work for other people, but I need it.
Yeah.
And so I am being the visionary in my own company and saying, I am our ideal client. I get in my head and I need help getting out of it. So the number one thing that I'm working on is constantly my own belief system.
And I think that's brave and vulnerable to share, because like even people that have achieved levels of success in
Mhm.
their personal and professional lives and careers and have led big companies, they still have limiting
Yeah.
beliefs or doubt or
Mhm.
imposter syndrome or confidence issues, even though they have proven track records of success.
I saw it. I saw it happen in my parents, and then I lived it myself, and I said no more. I'm
Yeah.
not doing this again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, my last question is, how can I help?
Oh, that's amazing. Well, Kate, I would love that we band together and support women in saying it's okay to build your big dreams, to think bigger. And I
Yeah.
think you're doing it already.
I love that. And building a community in a place that it's safe for women to show up
Exactly.
and be that, right? I
And
think
have these conversations.
have these conversations and make it acceptable that you can still be successful and strong and brave and vulnerable all at the same time,
And
right?
I
You
can
talked
still do
about
business
alignment.
and I can still, if we
Be a
need
mom.
to, we can be all the things. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being open and honest and sharing your stories about being a resilient entrepreneur. Now that you've been on my show, who do you recommend for me to interview next?
Question that was supposed to be prep work, which by the way, typically I'm not good at homework. But I, for some reason, did not think it was going to be on this show. So I did not think about it because I'm like, well, I introduced you to people. So hold on. But actually, I would like Alicia Bear to be the next guest. I actually sent an introduction just before this podcast, and I would love for her to be the next guest.
Okay, perfect. Look at you doing the homework in advance. So you already did the intro.
Maybe I take action so fast. I'm like doing the homework during the class.
Yeah,
So
I
it
love it.
doesn't feel like homework.
I love it. Well, and I stole your thunder because I already interviewed Rachel and Brittany, and
Mm-hmm.
we were just waiting on our scheduling. And so otherwise, they probably would have been people that you would have recommended. All
Absolutely.
right, Alicia is up next. I will reach out and I'll respond to your email. And thank you so much. This has been fun. I've enjoyed getting to know you so much over this past year and watching as Believe Crew has grown and I've grown. And I look forward to finding opportunities to continue to support each other's businesses.
I love that. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.